it is. It's Thursday, or if you're rewatching this clip, it's on a Friday. So good luck to you on your last day of work. But every Thursday, we go through our keys to victory for the game that LSU football has in its upcoming week. Let's get to it here today. Listen, I think that for me, going into this game versus Arkansas, guys, I have a very I don't even know how – I don't know what words to use. You know, I've been thinking about this all day. What words do I want to use to describe my feelings about LSU versus Arkansas this week? Guys, I don't know how good I feel about LSU in this football game at all. Look, I just saw a situation where LSU was at home at night, a raucous environment, the tension around the place and in Baton Rouge. You know, we were out and about on Friday night in Baton Rouge. I did not feel good about it at all. Or I felt good. Let me back up. I felt really good about the vibe in Baton Rouge last Friday. So almost a week ago to the day, I felt really good on that LSU would come out with a victory. On Thursday of last week, I tweeted, "We ain't losing!" ! Bookmark the tweet. LSU didn't lose. I have the opposite feeling going into this game versus Arkansas. I think the same thing that you had to your advantage last week in Baton Rouge, Arkansas has this week in Fayetteville. Now, I don't know if there will be a situation where they can replicate some of the things that you did this last Saturday. I don't know if they have the light show or if they'll do the wristbands. They certainly won't have an entire crowd of 102,000 singing "Set It Off" in this mother like they were Little Boosie. Even though some other fan bases thought it was trashy, yeah, you can kick rocks. I don't really care. But as our good buddy Ty Richardson talked about on Tuesday, as you and I have discussed previously, guys, I think you're walking into a buzzsaw. Now, the nation, if you go into Fayetteville and win, the nation will not, some of the nation will not give you the credit that you deserve going into that hostile environment and winning. Doesn't matter. Get the win. I don't care how you do it, but you just got to go in there and win. Because this is a tough ball game that you're going into. It's a tough team, a team that has been top 10 all year in total offense. You got to be able to contain. So the number one thing, and going into an environment that is going to be as hostile and raucous and chaotic as the red-haired, hog-loving, moonshine-loving Arkansas fans, you got to, for once, against a P4 opponent, start fast. There's no questions about this. You got to take the crowd out. You know, while the crowd was so raucous in Baton Rouge, number one, it's just a raucous place. It's a hell of a place to play. It's where opponents' dreams come to die. But Ole Miss kept that crowd in the football game, going for it on fourth down in their own red zone. And Braden Swinson busts through the line of scrimmage and gets a tackle behind the line of scrimmage for you to get a turnover on downs. You know, I thought about this today too. What would have happened if Lane Kiffin would have kicked that football there? Like, what would have happened? It's a question that I ask. If he would have kicked the field goal and at some point during the game they would have been up 20 or 17, would have been a much bigger deal than what it was in your comeback. You got to start off fast. Either way, I thought that you know, it's just of my opinion, and I know a lot of you are going to come in here and say every time that you win a toss, you need to defer to the second half. I don't mind being aggressive. I don't mind going out there and want to punch somebody in the mouth if you have a good game plan to go down and march down the field and go down and score, even if it's 3 points. It doesn't bother me if you take the ball first and you go down there and score. Either way, either you take the football or you defer. Defense, offense, whoever it is has got to be locked in and has to be ready to go because you got to take this crowd out of it. Because if you don't, what happened 2 weeks ago against Tennessee with Arkansas? Guys, did you go back and rewatch that game in case you missed it? Now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't LSU playing at around that same time? Maybe I am wrong. Whenever I remember that game being played at night. Oh yeah, LSU played South Alabama. Did they not? I forget who they played. Maybe they were by. I don't remember. But going back and rewatching that game, that lad was ready to go. You got to start fast, man. You know, your defense did and has the last 2 weeks, which if you're Brian Kelly, you have to think to yourself, well, man, you know what? South Alabama bye week, refocus, and even going into last week versus Ole Miss, our defense has been the side of the football that started off fast. Even if you go and look at USC. Now, South Carolina, you did not. And, that's a whole different ball game. A whole completely different ball game, and you found a way to win. And that's a good thing that you did. Found a way to win. But, man, either one doesn't matter to me. The number one thing that you have to do is you got to start off fast. Get that crowd out of it. Build some momentum. Shut them up. I'm telling you, that place is ready to explode, and I think that you're in for a tough one. Number 2, got a lot of flack this week. I posted the whole 7-minute segment on Twitter today. So in case you missed it, there's a 7-minute analogy or just take that I had. It was in do's and don'ts from last night. I posted it on Twitter. I'm going to re-emphasize and talk about this again. Because, guys, if you don't do number 2, you are going to lose. I don't really feel like it's opinion at this point, okay, for me. And, of course, because I feel so strongly about this, but based off of what we've seen from Arkansas and the issues that LSU has had, you better do number 2. Number 2 is, man, you cannot continue to turn over the football. Guys, we talked about this last night. Last time that Arkansas played against Tennessee, their first 3 drives, 16 plays, 9 plays, 13 plays. Guys, they had the ball 9 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. If your offense is not on the field, you're not going to score. Now, did Tennessee play simple and bite them in the rear end? Yes. Second half, they had success because they put pressure on the quarterback. They sent some exotic stuff from the slot blitzes, some stunts. That's how they were able to make stops in the second half. Didn't work long because Taylen Green started picking them apart when they went simple again. But, guys, listen to me. I don't care who's turning the ball over. I don't care if it's Nuss, Durham. I don't care who it is, wherever it is. Whoever it is. Guys, you cannot give Arkansas extra possessions. Now, I know what they would say, and I know what I would say if I was an Arkansas fan. You know, if I was Arkansas, the number one thing that I would talk about this week is, hey, man, you just can't turn the ball over to LSU. They've had the same problem that you've had. The same exact problem you have had is the same reason why they lost to A&M. It's why they lost to Oklahoma State. Guys, if they clean that up, Tennessee happens. Now, I think you're a better overall team than Tennessee is. And I do think, for what it's worth, either you or A&M, and probably more you, are a more complete football team because Marcel Reed was the quarterback for A&M when it went in. And we'll have to see. My worry is that if you turn the football over, they're just going to hold on to the football and run 3 yards in a cloud of dust, get Taylen Green out on the perimeter, let him get 3, 4, 5 yards on a run, what has Bobby Petrino done in an off week and 2 weeks to prepare for you? What has he done? Now, Blake Baker in these high-profile type of games against high-profile type of play callers, Lincoln Riley, Lane Kiffin, now Bobby P. The first 2 times, Blake Baker has been pretty good. Now, remember when there were people out there arguing with me on Twitter, former LSU All-Americans arguing with me on Twitter that the defense stunk? Boy, it just shows that y'all don't know football. Not like you think that you do. Guys, you have to maintain possessions. Guys, arguably the greatest coach of all time had a saying, that being Nick Saban. And he said it when he was at LSU. He said it when he was with the Dolphins. And he said it when he was with Alabama. Every successful drive for the offense ends in a kick. Field goal, extra point, punt. Because that means in the punt, you're not turning the football over. You just had a bad drive. Now, you can't have too many of those, but that's a whole different conversation. Field goal, you're getting into field goal range, and you're kicking it. You're getting points on the board. Not exactly what you want, but at least you're getting points. And obviously, an extra point offensively is arguably the second best thing that you can do. You just can't give them the ball back. Guys, last week, if Braden Swinson, here was my play of the game. It came early in the game. There were many of them. Many of them. You know, I think it's tied with the Nussmeier throw to Aaron Anderson on 4th and 5. It was the Braden Swinson bust through the line of scrimmage and get a TFL because, guys, I mean, if they score there, you're giving them the ball inside your own 25-yard line. Like, that just cannot happen. Why there's been some glossing over on that, I don't know. But regardless of how it happens, you can't do it. They will Les Miles you to death. Wait, what? Sam Pittman will Les Miles you to death. 3 yards in a cloud of dust. The only difference is Taylen Green and Bobby Petrino are a little bit better than what Les Miles ever accomplished. They will Les Miles you to death. That is their game plan. That is 1,000% their game plan. If you allow them to have extra possessions, you're going to be like some of the teams that we've seen in the SEC that have been upset already this year. Vanderbilt beats Alabama. They have 42 minutes of possession because they have 2 turnovers. Ole Miss loses to Kentucky. Why? Kentucky holds on to the ball for 40 minutes. Arkansas beats Tennessee. Well, they didn't really win completely the time of possession game. It was a tale of 2 halves. Yeah, but it ultimately was the thing that won them the football game because they're having the ball for 9 and 8-minute drives. You go into a half up 3-0. Now, the second half is where things got gnarly for them, and adjustments were made by Heupel. You get my gist. Whatever it is, I don't care how mad you get at me. I'm always going to come out here and tell you the truth. You can't do it. Number 3, Nussmeier. So if we did this a week ago, and I told you the number 5 thing for me was if you beat Ole Miss, it was going to be in the hands and the arms of Garrett. Same goes for this week. Guys, there are going to be key throws that he's got to make. I don't know. I feel confident that if you stay with the run, you're going to bust a long one. I think you're going to have more success this week in the running game than you did last week. Because I look at Garrett and I say to myself, listen, I see the elite throws. I see the Kyle Parker throw. I see the Aaron Anderson throw. I see the anticipation of giving your wide receiver and Kyron Lacey the benefit of the doubt when he's in the huddle and he looks at you and says, hey, if I'm on number 28, hey, by the way, I should have came out here all week talking about and bragging about I thought that Ole Miss's biggest weakness was the far left boundary corner. I mean, Maybe we should have done that. Didn't. Probably should have. Didn't. They go up against Kyron Lacey and you win a football game. I know it's in there. I know that 4 quarters of making sure that you're doing the right thing is in there. Without a doubt. And I think the way that Garrett prepared for Wisconsin is the way that he's got to orchestrate this football game. Guys, if there are checkdowns, you have to hit them. If you cannot run the football, those little stick routes and little out routes and crossers and drags, sometimes you just got to take positive yards. And I thought that game, for what it was worth, that's when he did it the best, and he needs to get back to that game. When I look at Garrett Nussmeier, I think that is the best game that he had. By far. It was not this last one. Because sometimes 30 incompletions will get you beat. Guys, 30 incompletions this week is going to get you beat. Okay? I know what he thinks that he is seeing pre-snap. Guys, what a lot of teams have done is give Garrett a different look post-snap. Where they've lined up at 10, 11, 8 seconds has not been where they're at when the ball starts. I saw our good friends over at PFF had kind of given a little stat analysis on that. It is what it is. It's in there. You know, against USC, I thought Garrett got to a place where he was too gun shy to force the ball down the field. Now you get halfway through the season, and he's doing it a little too much. He's got to find that happy medium. He has to. You know, like if I'm Joe Sloan and I tell him, like, hey, man, if there's a situation on 2nd and 10, I'm going to give you 2 routes that are 7 yards, maybe shorter, but 7-yard throws, 8, 9, 10-yard throws. And you got to complete them to get first downs. You know, there were multiple times that Taylor, that Xavion could have been hit on. Got to go back to that. But in reference to keys to victory, if you win, you're going to look up and say, Garrett played much better this week. We know that he grew up last week. He had moments that weren't great. But every single start, you got to be better than you were the last. And I think when you win, or if you win, it's going to be because he made the throw that maybe that you needed instead of forced stuff. So I think he is going to do it. I think from talking to people, it's been a point of emphasis this week on, hey, man, we get it. But sometimes you got to hit these little short things. There were multiple ones of them. I think he's going to do it this week, and I think I want the Garrett from Wisconsin, not the one that we saw from last week. I know it's 2 completely different defenses. I think you get the philosophy point of what I'm talking about. I think Garrett's going to win you the football game. If you win, barring something crazy, he's going to win you the football game. What I don't want, I don't want to trade shots with them. Especially defense to defense. I don't want to do that. This team in Arkansas, I promise you, if they don't turn the football over, I promise you, they will lean on you, and they will lean on you until you break. Their losses come because of bad decision-making too. They just weren't an overall better team to overcome those situations. They weren't. All right. Number 4. You got to continue to be aggressive. Look, if I think that what we talked about last week with Ole Miss having a big and massive issue on one boundary corner, I think that Ty Richardson, that's why I asked him the question. I could make the argument that the alt-right biggest weakness for Arkansas has been the play of their tackles. That can benefit you with Braden Swinson. So let's talk about why. I think you still got to be aggressive and go after them. You got to get after Taylen Green. You have to put pressure on them. You cannot let him be back there and sit back there and make decisions. I don't think Braden Swinson's going to allow that. But if there's a weakness that we've seen from Arkansas through the first 6 games that they've played, the reason that they're 87th in the country in sacks allowed, some of it is because Green isn't making right decisions quick enough. A lot of it's been because both tackles at times in pass pro has gotten pushed around. That helps you in the sense of when you send heat and get after them, I don't feel that they have enough to hold up for 4 quarters. Like I could see a close game, it being 24-21 and Braden Swinson because Blake Baker sends the heat or Major Burns or whoever it is come up with a key sack because the tackle play at Arkansas has been very suspect. Very suspect. If there's a massive area of weakness, it actually, guys, it's the biggest weakness that they have. Borderline the turnovers, yes. I mean, you could say that the turnovers are their biggest weakness, but they finally cleaned it up the last time they played. Guys, Tennessee got after their rear end in that second half and put a licking on them. That's why they were able to come back in the football game. They didn't play passive. If you play passive on Bobby Petrino, he will beat you. Ultimately, he will beat you. I think Blake Baker has shown the style and aggressiveness that he wants to be aggressive. You know, there was a play twice. There was a play early in the game. I clipped it and should show you, but if we play clips from the game, we get copyrighted, and I don't want to do that. But some of my buddies this week, I sent copies of this. You know, there was a critical 3rd and 5 that Lane Kiffin ran the football, and the aggressiveness doesn't only pay off in the passing game, but it pays off in the running game so much too. You know, there was that crucial 3rd and 5 call where Ole Miss punted the football. Or did they punt the football or they went for it on 4th? I forget what happened. But Major Burns came off the edge. Now, my friends know because we had discussions on this play about Burns. He came off the edge and got a tackle for no gain in the running game on a just simple dive play. I think that you can have tons of success. That means Savion Jones, Braden Swinson, even Major Burns, depending on how they slide the line. Got to be big. You can win here. This is not a week to just say, hey, man, I had a good week against Ole Miss. Savion Jones has got to be big. To be real with you, too, there have been signs of Deshaun Womack coming in and being critical in moments, too. Him and Paez getting a sack late in the game. You got to continue to just get after them. Speed has been their issue. Teams with speed has massively been an issue for Arkansas on the outside, both in the running game and in the pass game. You know, A&M in the second half did something very similar to the style of stuff that Blake Baker would do. They put a safety at the end line of scrimmage and say, you know what, man, run it right at us. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're faster than you at every level. They benefited them. Continue the pressure, man. They're 87th in sacks. You're 4th in sacks. Your interior and exterior guys got to be really good. All right, last thing. I think that Brian Kelly has been so good at managing games inside the game. And I think he's been very good at clock management. I think he's been very good in crucial situations, specifically at home. Guys, I trust BK to do what he thinks is right. And normally, in the 33-year career that he's had, in game, he can make adjustments and stuff on the fly. He's really good at it. I don't know if you don't play a little keep away from them in the first half. You know, you got to be aggressive. Look, I'll say it like this. I think if you get off to an early lead, you get up 10-0, you get up 14-0. Against you, I don't think that they can catch up to you. Tennessee, they could, because Tennessee and Nico have a very bad issue of throwing the football. Your issue is that you throw it too much. Their issue is that they just can't do shit. They have no pulse whatsoever offensively outside of the running game. Past game, they've been poo-poo. I think you got to go for it, man. I think you got to come out throwing some haymakers offensively. Now, what do I mean by haymakers? I'm not talking about deep shots. I'm talking about being aggressive in some of the things that you do. I think that's, like I mentioned earlier, I think some of these things to CJ Daniels, who we're going to talk about in a minute, and Mason Taylor can really benefit you. Because you got to get CJ Daniels and Mason Taylor the football. You got to find ways to do it. They are too good and too athletic for you not to throw them the football. If you want to keep them underneath, keep them underneath. Because 8 yards is 8 yards. And I think that keeping the ball away from them to some extent while being aggressive in some of the things that you do. Guys, for me, on 1st and 10, if you throw a hitch route for 7 yards and it's completed, I take that as a massive win. I don't care if you throw it or run it for a 7-yard clip. But I could see you doing that to Mason Taylor. I could see you doing that to CJ Daniels. You know, one thing that I think about last year that I love Mike Denbrock about, guys, there were so many times on first downs that Mike Denbrock, to keep teams honest, would come out and throw a quick hitch route to Kyron Lacy. Guys, that was his go-to in 2022. Either Jeray Jenkins or Kyron Lacy, early in drives, would catch a hitch route. Guys, there's nothing wrong with that. That's such a successful play. Being at 2nd and 8, 2nd and 3, it's such a winnable thing. But I think that is aggressive because a lot of teams like to run the football early in drives. CJ Daniels being back, I think, is a big deal. How it impacts this game, if they're actually going to start getting him the football, I don't know. But we have seen that he has been a very good possession receiver. Very good possession receiver. Him and Mason Taylor have been really good this year when you've given them the opportunities. You just haven't given them enough great opportunities for them to be successful in crucial situations. When you're in the red area, you've gone to Taylen Green twice. You've gone to Kyron Lacy a majority of the time and Aaron Anderson a few. And when you went to Aaron Anderson, you've had success. When you've gone to Taylen Green, you've had success. When you've gone to Kyron Lacy, guys, it's been about 50-50. I think that those two guys can benefit you. So be aggressive. I consider that aggressive, if I'm being honest. I don't need you taking bomb shots. That's, as our good buddy Jay Crane would say, that's bombs over Baghdad. That's too aggressive. Go after their ass. Play a little keep away early. There was one last thing that I'd say here. To counterpart my number 2. Guys, you've been really good at turning the football over. You have not been good at generating points off of turnovers. 9 complete total turnovers with interceptions, fumbles, and turnover on downs. You've got 9 points. Here's the thing, too. I need to see Tennessee. I need to see Arkansas play another game like Tennessee where they're mistake-free. We can't. Like, I maybe it's just me, okay? I'm not looking past this game. And I think that if you can do some good things, guys, they're a very beatable football team for you. Regardless of the crowd, regardless of everything that they have going on, you can go into Fayetteville and win. They have to also live up to the part where they don't turn the football over again. Guys, they're also in the 90s in turnovers themselves. I think you can do a lot of really good stuff. So, look, BK has been good at re-rallying the troops after something that's been emotional. A&M game, I get it. Arkansas game, I get it in year one. You still won football games, or you still won the football game against Arkansas. This is a better team. You can't. I really don't know if this team is like. What are we looking past to? Like, I feel like if I'm as a player, I'm thinking to myself like, hey man, let's get going. We can really do this. We can really make a playoff run. I'm not looking past Arkansas. And, I think what's interesting, Josh Williams said something this week like, hey, man, I've been here for a long time and seen a lot of good quarterbacks. And he said in his press conference this week, like, hey, man, we talked to Garrett. I talked to Garrett. I talked to everybody like, hey, man, like, you can do something if you refocus and get ready for this team.